Hello, and welcome to another episode of Some of Our Parts, the podcast where two friends talk about the movies that add up to make us who we are. I'm Lindsay.
And I'm Jim.
This week, it is Jim's pick. We're getting into spooky season, so we're trying to be on theme with that. So, Jim, tell us what spooky season movie you picked.
Well, this one came to mind, and maybe in retrospect, maybe it wasn't the perfect movie to start off the Halloween season, but I liked it and it was funny. And now that there's a part two coming out, I picked Beetlejuice with Michael Keaton and Winona Ryder. So,
Yes, excellent.
old movie from 1988. It stars a very young Alec Baldwin
hmm
and Gina Davis.
Yeah, real all-star cast here.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
amazing people. Sorry. Like you said, Michael Keaton, Winona Ryder, Alec Baldwin, Gina Davis, Catherine O'Hara. You even get cameos from like Sylvia Sidney, who was like a woman. She was in movies in the 30s. You have like
Oh yeah,
Dick
the
Cavett
Dick Cavett. I wrote
and
a big.
Robert Goulet, who are kind of like icons in TV and stuff separately from movies. So like it's a pretty star-studded cast that Tim Burton put together for this.
It really was, and I don't know that. I don't think it was Tim Burton's first movie, was it? It was. I know it was directed by Tim, but I don't think it was his first movie. But
Don't
I
think
know
it
it was
was.
an early movie.
Yes, it was definitely early.
Um.
He had done
Uh.
Pee-wee. He did Pee-wee before this.
Oh, okay. All right.
Pee-wee's Big Adventure, yeah. So I
But
think that's how they kind of greenlit this for him because he that was successful.
but this maybe then was probably his first what I would call darker movie. As far as like being a little more supernatural or being
hmm
supernatural overall. So
Yeah.
where
Yeah,
he
which I think is something he's kind of come to be known for, the sort of
exactly.
gothy,
Mm-hmm.
dark kind of things, right? Because then after this, he does Batman,
Right.
which
And
is
then
definitely a lot, and his Batman movies are kind of more darker and like surreal, I would say, kind of than like the others, the ones in the 90s and like the Christopher Nolan ones. Those are like kind of hyper realistic.
yeah, and even it was a far cry from the 1960s TV show, which was very campy and very,
Yeah.
he.
He seems like Tim Burton seems like he was hewing closer to that, but in like a darker
Mm-hmm.
way. Meanwhile, it's like all and then with all Prince music, which is also just like a fun element. Um,
Gotta yeah, you gotta admit he has his own style for doing movies and stuff. And I thought this movie, I think maybe some of the things that stood out to me were the special effects, some of
mhm.
the and the costuming, which I thought was very good. But um, looking after watching the movie again, I hadn't seen it for a number of years. Probably not the most in depth script or plot. But it's a fun story, even though it's about two people dying. If you
Yeah.
if you can get some humor out of that, and I think that's where maybe Tim Burton, he likes to take themes like that and then pull them apart or twist them around a little bit, like his Nightmare Before Christmas and
hmm
his other animated movies and so on. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Corpse Bride is a favorite. So he didn't direct Nightmare Before Christmas, but he produced it, I believe.
oh, okay.
And but like Corpse Bride, same kind
Mm-hmm.
of thing, right? It's we're starting with a dead person.
Yeah.
Um, and I read too that originally the script was much darker.
Oh,
Like
oh,
it
oh,
was like
really?
there was a more graphic depiction of their car accident.
Oh,
And Beetlejuice was like the devil kind of
oh,
like more evil rather than kind of like pervy and mischievous. So it had a darker angle initially, but then there was a rewrite done
okay.
to it. So while we're
That would
talking
have been
about
an
that,
interesting version to see then, wouldn't it?
yeah, it wouldn't be funny though,
No,
probably.
probably not. I
Um,
wonder though if they were going to would they had still used the same cast because I although so, and I'll say right up front, a big part of the movie to me was Michael Keaton, who I really, really, really enjoy in all
Mm-hmm.
his roles.
Yeah.
Uh, in a lot of his Mr. Mom, um,
Mm-hmm.
you know, Gung Ho, which I don't know if you're about the car factory where a Japanese car maker buys an American car company, and he's like the liaison, but he's just so funny. And then Night Shift, which I think is his first movie, which I really enjoyed with Henry Winkler, where they worked in a morgue and they were running a prostitution ring out of it
Oh,
to make money. So
that's something.
yeah,
Hmm.
so
Nice.
yeah.
Nice.
Anyway,
I've not seen those. I mean, I know him from Batman,
mm-hmm.
of course. Batman and Batman Returns.
Birdman,
Probably. I've never seen Birdman, but like I know it.
he's so good in that.
Spotlight. He's good in Spotlight. That's a good movie.
I haven't seen that.
And Dope Sick, which was like the mini series he was in recently, where
Mm-hmm.
he's a doctor in West Virginia who's prescribing opioids and then also gets addicted to opioids. That's really good. And he was in the 1993 version of Much Ado About Nothing that Kenneth Branagh did. That is another one that he's in that I recommend. I heard that The Founder is good. He's in the one about the McDonald's. Guy who started McDonald's is supposed to be good.
Okay.
And he's in Jackie Brown, which is a Quentin Tarantino I've never seen but want to because Pam Grier is in it and it's supposed to be good.
Well, if Pam Greer's in it, then it's got to be good. So,
Can also so Tim Burton, if people somehow don't know who he is, and I don't know how you like if you're a person who watches movies, I don't know how you don't know who he is, but he's a person, like we said, of a very particular aesthetic. So he started with Pee-wee's Big Adventure, which is not necessarily of that aesthetic. But I think still fits some of the like absurdity that he's into. But like he did the 1980s Batman with Michael Keaton, Batman Returns, Edward Scissorhands, Ed Wood, Corpse Bride, Mars Attacks, Sweeney Todd, Big Fish. He did this movie called Big Eyes. He did Dark Shadows, the movie, not the show. But lots of like again this sort of like dark gothy. He did Frank and Weenie also. He works with a lot of the same people. So like he used to be with Helena Bonham Carter, so she was in all of his movies. Now he's with Monica Bellucci and she's in Beetlejuice. So I guess that's just how he works. But like Winona Ryder has been in several things, Catherine O'Hara, Johnny Depp, Michael Keaton. Like he has a
mm.
lot of people that he works with
It's almost
over and
like his
over again.
stock players that he likes
Yeah,
to use in different roles. So,
right. It's sort of like how John Hughes had like the Brat Pack. Like he
good point.
has his
Good
his like
analogy.
gothy weirdos.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and just plugged them in, and then you
Mm-hmm.
know, and they're all talented because
Yeah,
no matter what role that he picks them for. I mean, Michael Keaton to go from playing Beetlejuice to then to play Batman. Is
right. Right. Yeah.
that's a good stretch to
Yeah, and
me.
he's growing his pack because now he did the Wednesday television show on Netflix, and the star of that is Jenna Ortega, and then she's now one of the main characters in the new Beetlejuice sequel. So I guess he's growing his group
Mm-hmm.
of people.
So hard to believe though that this movie came out. Gosh, almost 40 years ago.
I
I mean,
know it came out before I was born,
so
which I
yeah.
mean I feel like half the movies we talk about did, but
Well,
uh
the ones that I bring up anyway.
yeah,
So
some of the ones I bring up too, but yeah, mostly the ones you bring up. But this one was close. I've seen this movie like a million times,
okay.
especially this time of year because it's always on.
It's on tonight, as a matter of fact. I saw it's on one of the network channels tonight. So I
It's
was.
always on like the 31 Nights of Halloween on
Mm-hmm.
ABC Family and stuff. So, and I think that it's like a fun movie to watch. I think as we will get into, like there's not that much like depth in terms of plot, right? There's not like a ton to discuss,
No,
but it's a fun movie to watch.
and it's a very if it's a very visual movie. I think it's
Hmm.
it's it's one of those
Hmm.
ones where there's not a whole lot of dialogue, and there's some sight gags and then so on, and then
Yeah.
but yeah, it's the story follows along in a certain path, but I think most of it is sort of the makeup and the costumes and so
Mhm.
on and so forth that
Yeah,
the
it's definitely
characters.
the look is a big part of
Mm-hmm.
it.
Mm-hmm.
And I will also plug, this is something that always appeals to me these days. It's like a 90-minute movie,
Yep.
which is great.
Yep.
It's quick.
Exactly.
It's like you get through it very quickly.
Yep.
Because again, it's not like that much going on.
Well, it doesn't have to be. I think if
Yeah.
they stretched it out any longer, they would just be padding the thing.
Mhm.
So it's not that there was, like you said, there's not a whole lot of story to tell, and the story there is, they tell very very well, I think. So
Yeah.
it.
There is one thing I want to bring up, which I thought was funny. If you watch Siskel and Ebert, if people remember that show with Gene Siskel and Roger Ebert. So they had their show where they did movie reviews. You can find a lot of them on YouTube. I believe you can find the episode about this movie on YouTube and see that they did not like it. Partially because it seems that at least Roger Ebert thought the movie was just going to be about Alec Baldwin and Gina Davis, like a couple fixing up a house.
Oh.
And then they die, and he's like, "What is this Beetlejuice nonsense?" Gene Siskel said, I really thought the Michael Keaton character detracted from a rather nice couple played by Gina Davis and Alec Baldwin. Roger Ebert, I liked the relationship between Gina Davis and Alec Baldwin. I thought it was going to be a goofy, silly comedy about this young married couple trying to fix up this crummy house. Gene Siskel said, a little of Beetlejuice goes a long, long way, and the back half of this movie is absolutely stuffed with his antics, and it was too much of a not very good thing. Roger Ebert said Beetlejuice is absolutely obnoxious. That's what it is. It's not funny. It's just there's that guy again. Get rid of him.
Ooh.
So it's just so funny that they like clearly it seems like they went in with expectations that were not
I
in
don't
line
know.
with what the actual movie is about.
If you look at the movie poster, it's like the one for the movie. It shows Alec Baldwin with his head off, holding it in his in his hands, and Beetlejuice is the character in between the two, Alec Baldwin and Gina Davis. So it's like
All Beetlejuice.
juice. I know. It's like um, I don't
I
know,
just thought
but
that was funny. I thought this was going to be a movie about a couple fixing up a house. Which they weren't even doing. They were just living in the house, and Alec Baldwin was making his models, and then that one
right.
woman kept trying to get them to sell the house.
Well, and Gina
Um,
was going to wallpaper, I guess, or do wallpaper or something, because that
yeah,
was, yeah. Well, you'll give us the rundown about how the movie starts, and how that's how we get the introduction to the characters and what their
yes.
interests are.
Yes. I will also say, in addition to the visuals, and this is kind of leading into the movie because the first point I wrote in the movie, you hear music as you were kind of entering the house. Tim Burton, another frequent collaborator, Danny Elfman, who does
Mhm.
like most of his music for his movies, and he's like the voice of Jack Skellington in Nightmare Before Christmas and etc. He does it, and I do like the music is fun. It's like do 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 do, like as we're kind of going swooping around, going to the house, and so they live in this like big old, like beautiful, like Victorian kind of looking house on top of a hill in Connecticut. Um, Alec Baldwin, again, this is young. Yeah, they must have
Yeah,
some money. Oh, 'cause it was like, what do they do? We never know really what they
I
do
know. We never got
besides
around to figuring out what they did.
building
Oh,
models. So Alec
yeah,
Baldwin is building like a model of the town, which I think people is a thing people do. Like he has it all on the table. It's just like little, the little figures, the little houses, and he like paints them and all this stuff. Uh, and Gina Davis is working on like kind of redecorating the house a little bit, putting up some wallpaper. And there's this obnoxious neighbor who's a realtor, I guess, who keeps showing up to try to get them to sell the house. And they're like, no, because and I think there's an implication that they maybe can't have kids.
yeah,
Because
yeah.
she's like, oh, well, like a family should live here,
Hmm.
which is kind of rude.
Yeah, because the family
Because
does
she's like,
live
oh, well,
there.
since you guys don't have any kids, you should let someone else live here. And it's like the suggestion is that they maybe would like to, but cannot,
Yeah.
is the vibe you get. Um, so they're like, go away. And then They're kind of on like a staycation, basically. That's what when we meet them. So again, what do they do? We
Yeah,
don't know,
and
but
well,
they're on vacation.
and they get 2 whole weeks off, but they're going to spend it at home.
Yeah. Working
Uh,
on the models and redecorating.
yeah, just doing their own thing. I guess they really love where they live or where they're at. So,
Yeah. So they go into town because Alec Baldwin needs more paint for his models.
oh, oh,
Yes.
so and then they also assign that they may have money because they drive a Volvo station wagon.
Okay.
Just saying, that was
A
that was
yellow one,
yeah,
a
yeah,
nice bright yellow one.
yeah. I wouldn't mind having a yellow Volvo station wagon. So
It looked
just saying,
nice.
yeah.
Not
So
very buoyant.
I wrote later on, so much for Volvo being such a safe car.
Well, it was the dog's fault. So on the way home from the store, they have to cross this little like covered bridge. And there's a dog in the middle of it. So they swerve to avoid him and kind of crash through the side of the bridge. They're like hanging on the edge, right? It's like a fulcrum. And the dog is standing on the one plank that's like holding them up. And then this dog who is cold-blooded
Evidently,
just leaves. So bloop, over the edge and into the water they go. Also, it does feel like that took a while, so like maybe bust a window while we're like instead of staring at the
well,
dog.
well, and yeah, or just yeah, like you could, or they could have rolled down the window or opened the door or something, for
Right. Like it felt
whatever.
like they were sitting there a long time and then just sort of like went with it.
And it wasn't like they were like 100 feet up.
Right. It like sunk it like didn't fall far and sunk kind of slowly.
Yeah, I mean,
So like they
I'm
didn't it doesn't feel like they were fighting for their lives.
I I was the same thing. It was like when it happened. That I remember. I was sitting there thinking, wait a minute, did that like kill them instantly or something, or was that?
Right.
And again, I was thinking, well, so much for Volvos being really safe cars. So,
Right. Right.
uh,
And it also like was that water that I don't know. Anyways,
anyways,
we just see the car going down and then all of a sudden they're back home. And they're like, "Huh, the fire's on. I don't remember
hmm
turning that fire on. Wait, when did we even come back home? I don't remember coming back home." Adam's like, "Let me go outside." And then he like disappears for hours. He ends up in like a sort of alternate dimension full of clocks. It reminds me of the Salvador Dali painting.
well, that or the Twilight Zone.
Oh, true. Uh, and then he comes back in and uh, Barbara, Gina Davis, is like, "You were gone for hours." And they're like, "What is happening?" Um, and then they start putting some things together. They don't have a reflection anymore. And
hmm
a book has appeared in their living room that is labeled The Handbook for the Recently Deceased, which Adam, who's Alec Baldwin, originally says is diseased. And Gina Davis is like, deceased. The word is deceased. Uh, we also get a brief little cutaway of another character who will obviously is we learn later is the titular character Beetlejuice, who's reading his little afterlife newspaper looking for new people to take advantage of, and they have like this sort of new death announcements, and they're there, and he's like, oh yeah,
yeah,
they're gonna be
the
they're gonna
Maitlands.
be my next mark, kind of the Maitlands. He's like, oh, they look nice and dumb.
When in actuality,
Uh,
well, I guess they were pretty smart people during their life.
Yeah.
At
They're
least
just having some trouble navigating the complexities of the afterlife.
I think most people might, maybe,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
So
especially if it's set up the way this one is.
yeah, yeah.
It's
There's a lot of
that is
rules.
yeah, that is something that I read that they kept from the original script, the sort of the afterlife being like a complex bureaucracy, which I can kind of see. Um, but we don't get to see all the bureaucracy quite yet, because first they realize some people are moving into their house.
mm,
This Lady Jane finally succeeded, and a family, the Dietzes, are moving into their house. The family consists of Charles Dietz, who is played by Jeffrey Jones, who is an actor you've seen in a lot of things. He's the principal in Ferris Bueller's Day Off. He was in Deadwood. He's the king in Amadeus. He was in Hunt for Red October, The Devil's
I forgot
Advocate,
about that.
lots
Yeah,
of
he played the
things.
sub driver. Yeah.
Yes. Also, eh, in 2003, he pled no contest to soliciting a minor to pose for nude photographs. So,
Mm,
he's not our favorite.
no.
In any case, Jeffrey Jones plays the dad, Charles Dietz. His wife is Delia Dietz, played by Catherine O'Hara, uh, in an amazing performance. I love her in this movie.
She's great.
Catherine O'Hara, again, you have seen her in a million things. She's on commercials now. She was on Schitt's Creek, Home Alone. She was on Second City TV. She's been in like all the Christopher Guest movies, so like Best in Show and A Mighty Wind and all of that. And probably a million more things. You've heard her voice. She's Sally in Nightmare Before Christmas. So she is prolific and amazing. If you've ever seen a red hair lady going, Kevin, it's her.
Yeah.
Um, so, and then their daughter, well, Charles's daughter, Delia's stepdaughter, is named Lydia Dietz. She's played by Winona Ryder, who's another person that like you've seen a million things.
How old was she back then? She was 17 years old.
Okay, that tracks because Lydia is pretty young. But yeah, Winona Ryder now it's Stranger Things is kind of her main current thing, but at the time, like in
Mm.
the 80s, like The Heathers, this movie, I love her in Mermaids with Cher. She was in Edward
Oh,
Scissorhands.
forgot about that. Yeah.
She was in the 1990s version of Little Women, Age of Innocence, Bram Stoker's Dracula, The Crucible, Girl Interrupted was a big one.
Mm-hmm.
She was great in that. She was in Mr. Deeds with Adam Sandler, Black Swan. So she's another icon. And we also didn't talk about Alec Baldwin and Gina Davis, but again, I think like Alec Baldwin, currently famous for accidentally shooting someone in the face in a movie. Other things, 30 Rock. He's in this movie. He's in Working Girl, Glengarry Glen Ross. He's also in A Hunt for Red
Hunt
October.
for Red October. The main
Um,
the main character.
Yes.
Yeah.
Married to the Mob. It's Complicated with Meryl Streep. He's also the voice of the Boss Baby in Boss Baby.
Oh, I didn't know
But
that.
30 Rock, I think, is another big recent one that people have seen him in. And associated memes from 30 Rock. Barbara Maitland is played by Gina Davis. You know her from Thelma and Louise, A League of Their Own. From she was in The Fly, Stuart Little. She was the president on the show Commander in Chief.
Accidental Tourist.
Oh yes, Tootsie. She was in Tootsie,
Mm-hmm.
and she also has an institute called the Gina Davis Institute for Gender in Film. So she's trying to like improve representation of women on film. So we love that.
She's also
Uh,
an Olympic class archer.
that doesn't surprise me at all.
Yeah. She
She's so
took
cool.
up archery and became good enough to qualify for the Olympics, evidently, at some point. So she's.
Gina Davis killing it.
Mhm.
As I said, iconic cast. Anyways, back to the movie. The Dietzes are moving in. Charles wants to be away from the city. They've come from New York. Lydia is like, I don't know. Delia hates it, which does make Lydia like it more. She's like, oh, Delia hates it? Okay, I'm cool. Delia is an artist, like a very weird artist, a very not successful artist. We see some of her pieces. They're not that great to look at. But
Until
she
later in the
wants,
movie, they become a lot better to look at to me.
yeah,
They
not for
become
her,
more interesting.
certainly. She wants to redo the whole place, which like Adam and Barbara don't want. They're like, no, like we want to keep it the way it is. And Charles doesn't want to either because he just wants sort of like a retreat from the city. Uh, they also bring with them Otho, her interior designer. Uh, he is played by Glenn Shaddix, who I think also did some things probably on Broadway. He voices notably the mayor of Halloween Town in The Nightmare Before Christmas.
Oh, okay.
So, but
That's
yeah, I mostly
interesting.
recognize him from this movie, I think. But in any case, they're kind of walking around talking about what they're going to do. Adam and Barbara are like, okay, what are we going to do? Oh, we're ghosts. Let's scare them away. But like the people don't see them and they're frustrated. They like accidentally end up in this like desert landscape where there's a big sandworm. I wonder if this was inspired by Dune.
I don't know, but it's supposed to be Saturn.
Oh yeah, it's a moon of Saturn.
Yeah, it's a moon of Saturn or something like
Mhm.
that. So,
Yeah. The Dietzes are settling in. They're being all kooky, eating Chinese. Delia's wearing like a long, like an opera glove as a headband, and Lydia's wearing like a full like funeral veil and a black hat while they're eating Chinese food at the table.
and Lydia's hair. Come on now.
Oh yeah, she's got the like spiky bangs. It's like jet black, dyed jet black, the like sort of piecey spiky bangs and like then this like sort of fountain of hair coming out of the top. Uh look it up if you haven't seen it. It's a look. It's a look. She's definitely giving goth. She's
Oh
giving
yeah.
hardcore goth. Uh so Delia starts making over the house. They're getting rid of all this stuff, redoing the whole house. Um Adam and Barbara are trying to like find answers in this handbook that they have. But what they do find is an ad for someone named Beetlejuice, but it is not spelled phonetically the way the title of the movie is. It is spelled Betelgeuse, which Adam pronounces as Betelgeuse. Maybe he's German. Betelgeuse.
Betelgeuse.
Um,
It's a name of a star, isn't it?
yes, it is.
Oh, okay. Because I was sitting there thinking, I know it's a real name, but
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Uh, at this time, also, Lydia realizes that she can see Barbara and Adam. Her parents can't, but she can. And she realizes they're in the attic, so she gets a key for the attic from Jane, the annoying neighbor who was the real estate agent that sold them the house.
yep.
Um, they, oh, Barbara and Adam are in the attic, and their TV turns on, and they see an ad on TV also for Beetlejuice. Meanwhile, like before they can do anything with that, Lydia's trying to get into the attic, so they're trying to keep her out. Um, but then they read in the book, in case of emergencies, draw a door. So they draw a door with chalk on the wall, with a little doorknob. You got to knock 3 times. They're like, "This is dumb. This is not going to work," and then it does. It opens up, and then they are in the afterlife office with a bunch of other dead people. We learn here also when they check in at the front desk that they died 2 months ago, which they didn't know because
right.
apparently time works differently when you're dead. Makes sense.
I think I
That's
want
how
to
I feel
try
like
draw a
what
door to
just see what
escape.
happens, just draw it
Yeah.
on your wall and knock knock
Yeah.
knock.
Knock 3 times. Yeah.
Yeah. I love the characters in this scene, like the other dead people, right? Because we have a guy with like a shark having eaten one of his legs. Like it's like his the shark is attached to his leg. There's a guy who's like a shriveled up little black pile of ash, basically, who's smoking and offering them cigarettes. There's the guy with the shrunken head. There's a lady who's like cut in half, and like so her top half is sitting next to her bottom half. Um, Miss Argentina is the front desk woman. She died by slitting her wrists. Um, and then like there's the flat guy who was like run over, who like slides through the door to like come get
That was so
them.
funny.
And then like the hanging guy that like floats through the room, like moving papers from desk to desk. Um, so we also know part of the rules of the afterlife is you have a caseworker that helps you, but you can only like seek them out for help a limited amount of times too. So it is this bureaucracy, right? Like you can only it's like I don't know, it's like welfare. You can only use it, you get a limited lifetime benefit, or I guess this is after lifetime benefit of your caseworker. So their caseworker is a lady named Juno, who is played by Sylvia Sidney. As we mentioned, she was again like this lady was acting in the 1930s, so she's been around a minute. A big hit of hers was Summer Wishes, Winter Dreams. Her last film role was also in a Tim Burton movie. She was in Mars Attacks. Um, but
Oh yeah,
she's
she
kind
played
of
the grandmother, I think.
yes, yes. And I will say too, I love the set design here. Just the sort of like
Mm-hmm.
walking down these hallways that are kind of like a skewed perspective, and like the doorways are not straight. Yeah, everything's like a little bit tilted and just like slightly off kilter. Uh, that I think is really like visually interesting. I think that that's part of the thing with this movie. It's very visually interesting. Is there like a deep thematic meaning to it? No, but it's like cool to look at and it's funny.
Mm-hmm. It is.
So, they meet Juno, and basically like the thing that they drive home is like, read the book. We left you that book to give you instructions, and they have not read the whole book. The the manual for the recently deceased. That's really their guidebook, and they have not taken advantage of it. They're kind of skimming. This is not a Cliff Notes situation. You got to read the book, read the
Evidently.
manual. In any case, they also ask about Beetlejuice, and Juno tells them, well, first of all, don't say his name. If you say his name 3 times, that summons him. So by the end of this podcast, he might be here. He'll be here and back a few times because we're going to say it
Yeah,
a few times.
exactly.
Um, but he was her assistant. He was kind of a troublemaker. And he became a freelance bioexorcist, which is such a funny word that the writers came up with. So he exorcises the living instead of exorcising ghosts from from a home. And he's already hanging out. He's, as we said, he's identified them as a mark. He's hanging out in the cemetery portion of Adam's model of their little town. And she was like, you need to get rid of the Dietzes and you need to do it yourself. He's not, don't involve him. Then we get Beetlejuice like killing a fly. He's like Carrie. His hand shoots up from the under the grave and he like pulls a fly down to kill it and eat it, I guess.
I do like that when they show the close up of him in the grave, he's in the model, and like the what's supposed to be grass is like the plastic,
Yeah.
stuff that they use, to simulate that when you build, like people that build railroad model
Yes. Yes.
towns. I thought that was really funny, and that was very clever how they did that. Whoever came up with that.
Agreed. Yeah, I think again the like production design on this movie is really it. And I think that's the strength of Tim Burton too, that like
Mm-hmm.
there's always a very clear like vision of like this world
Mm-hmm.
that is always executed well. I think this actually won an Oscar for
It
it
won
was
an
like
Oscar for
it was
makeup.
something. Okay, that makes sense. I knew it was something like either makeup or production design, like something like that. But I think, if you see
Mm-hmm.
Michael Keaton's makeup, like it's and then even when like the Maitlands start trying to do their ghosts kind of try to do their scary stuff and all the dead people and all their different looks, like the makeup is really good.
It is. It's excellent. So
Even the Dietzes are kind of settling in even more. Charles kind of wants to develop the whole town into like a tourist trap, which is another reason to try to get rid of them. The Maitlands try again. They're like, okay, they can't see us, but like they can see other things. So they decide to do the old sheet ghost trick. So they throw on some sheets and start going, ooh, ooh, ooh. And they're like, what is it? The Deesters are like, what is that noise? It's so annoying. What is that noise? Like, it's not scary. It's just annoying. Like they're in the bedroom when Delia's trying to like sleep and she's just not budging. And Lydia lets them know that she's sleeping with Sir Valium. So she's out.
Yeah, the only thing she does is like turn off the TV, in a
Yeah.
half
Yeah.
dazed.
It's one of
Uh,
those things like, go away, be
yeah,
quiet. I'm trying to sleep. Sort of thing. So Lydia finds the book and reads it. And she encounters the Maitlands because for some reason she can see them, probably because she sort of like believes, right? Uh, she seems to kind of connect with them. Like I think she says in the book, it says that the living can't see the dead because they're sort of immune to like they don't pay attention to the strange and unusual. And she says, I myself am strange and unusual. So she's connecting to them. She tries to tell her parents. She tries to tell Charles and Delia, like, there are ghosts here. There are dead people in this house. I see
Mhm.
dead people.
Yeah, it's the place is haunted. Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, okay. They're worried because they're having a dinner party. And that's their focus. They're having some like of Delia's like art people come over. They're like, okay, whatever, Lydia. Chop some carrots. Blah blah blah. Finally, Barbara and Adam are like, I don't know what to do. We've tried two things, and none of them worked. Guess we're calling Beetlejuice. So they call him, and then they get shrunk down, and they're at his grave in the model. So they have to dig it up, which is funny again because it is like it's the building materials of the model, right? It's
Yeah,
not
it's like
dirt.
cardboard and yeah,
Yeah,
it's like
like
paper and
foam and cardboard and like that,
yeah,
like you said, that like fake grass stuff,
yeah.
uh, which again is just like production value. They finally hit his coffin, and I love this scene because he comes like floating up into the sky. And of course, immediately he's trying to kiss Barbara. He's just like gross and fast talking and sleazy and pervy. And he's like, hey, like, he has the voice like that, the like gravelly voice, which like must Michael Keaton must have needed a lozenge after
Oh gosh,
this.
I know, yeah.
Because it makes me just want to go like, like clear your throat.
Which he
Um,
does several times throughout the movie anyway. So, where he,
yeah, well, makes sense.
brings up something. So
Uh-huh. Yeah, he's gross.
he
I think
is.
is the vibe. He's like erratic and he's wild. He's just like oh, blah, 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 blah. Like he's just like switching back and forth, saying all these things, and they want to get out of there. Like I think he said something like, "Oh, you want something scary?" And then we don't see his face. We just see like the back of him and their reaction, but you can see there's like snakes coming out of his face, and they're like, "Ah."
And it is an iconic line where they ask him, like, what qualifies you or what makes you so, this, and he talks about like, well, I went to Juilliard, and
Juilliard.
and then he goes, and I've seen The Exorcist 165 times, and it keeps getting funnier every time. And that's
Yes.
like a classic iconic scene, where he delivers that. I think that's funny.
So, but Barbara somehow like gets them out. She's like, "Go home," and they pop back up, normal
Yeah,
sized.
it's like
Which we
Barbara's
don't
getting the
ever
hang
like
of this.
revisit this really, but I'm like, okay, Barbara's figuring it out.
Yeah, you get the feeling that Barbara's the smarter one of the two, maybe.
Yeah,
Yeah, me
yeah.
too.
She's like taking action. I
Hmm.
feel like Adam's like, "Oh, what's going
I
on?"
know. Well,
Barbara's like, "Okay,
even when they
I
were
want to."
alive, she's the one that drove. You notice,
That's true.
just I noticed that.
Mhm.
So anyway,
That's
sorry.
true. So they get away. Beetlejuice is now angry because they summoned him, and he's like, "Well, what the hell?" But they're like, "No, he's a perv, and we don't want him involved." Barbara especially has a fondness now for Lydia, and we're like, she's like, "I do not want him around that girl." Ew. But she says she has a plan. She's figuring things out.
Yep.
She obviously read more of the book than Adam did. He was skimming. He was looking for an index.
Right. Looking for the short version,
Yeah.
the
He was
condensed.
like, "Is there just like a summary in
Yeah.
here?"
Uh-huh. Yeah. A fact
So,
sheet.
right. So it's time for the dinner party. It's like the way that it's decorated now in this house, it
Oh
looks just like
God.
stone and like gray. It looks like Delia's sculptures, which are like big gray stone. One looks like a Christmas tree, and one looks like a block with like a string and then a uh
Ball or something on her.
ball. Yeah, it looks like ball and chain almost.
Yeah.
And although her look is amazing. I love her look.
Oh, you mean
She's
her
got
personal?
her personal
Oh,
look, like her
oh
outfit
yeah,
and her
yeah.
hair. She has her hair pulled back, but she has these like little curls on the front, like stuck to her
Hmm.
face. She has like a one shoulder outfit with like one long sleeve and then the other side has like a glove on. So she's, she's serving. We learn also here that Otho was a paranormal investigator. Just like, what? Now he's an interior designer. Like, what is going on? But the people here also are like other people from the art world, Delia's agent and like his wife. So it's like some people that she wants to impress. Um, there's also a funny line when Otho's talking about his paranormal investigator and he's talking to the woman next to him about, I think he like makes a joke about her trying to commit suicide. And he says that people who commit suicide become civil servants in the afterlife, which ties back to Miss Argentina, who is working the front desk in the
Exactly.
afterlife. She's
Yeah.
she's working the check-in desk, so perhaps Otho is onto something.
Maybe.
So, this is my favorite scene of this movie.
Okay.
The Day-O scene. So it's the Day-O banana boat song. It's, if people don't know it, it's so like daylight come and me one go home. Day, we say day, we say day.
Which
So
we hear them playing when they were alive. Evidently, they like that music.
they're big into Harry Belafonte.
Harry Belafonte, yes.
Because we get, I think that's him at the end too.
Oh yeah. Uh-huh.
So yeah, they're big Harry Belafonte fans, I guess. But what happens is, Delia, Catherine O'Hara, essentially gets like possessed. So they're just having a chat, and all of a sudden she goes, Dale, Dale. But she's like, you could see in her face, and this is why Catherine O'Hara is a favorite, because like she's doing it, but like her face is like, what am I doing?
Right. Yeah.
She starts getting up and dancing, but her face is still like, what is my body doing? And then Charles, it happens too. And then eventually all the guests are up being forced to dance to this song they're singing. Come, Mr. Tallyman, tally me banana.
But it's
It's
Harry
like,
Belafonte's voice. I mean, it's not like
yes, they're
they're
not
not
singing,
singing.
but
Yeah.
they're like mouthing the words.
Yeah.
They're
It's
being
almost like
forced to
lip
like lip
syncing.
sync.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
and
great.
dance. And they're doing just like these hilarious, it's like Catherine O'Hara is like fully like spinning and like shaking her hips, but with like this look of horror on her face of like, what am I doing? And then at the end they sit down and like the shrimp in their bowls becomes like a hand and grabs them.
Yes. Which was kind of scary when
That part does it's startling at the very
yeah.
least. Because they're all like, ah! But it's truly like you can look up the scene on YouTube. Sometimes I just watch it. It's so
It
funny
is
to me.
it is funny, yeah. Plus I like the song.
Yes, me too. I mostly it's Catherine O'Hara's face gets me every time. Her face of just like,
Hmm.
what is my body doing?
But you're right, she's fully committed to doing it. I mean,
Mhm.
yeah, it's like, oh, she, the body's enjoying it and stuff, but she's
Yeah, and the
inside,
face
she's
is
like,
like, what the heck?
what the hey?
Yeah. Unfortunately, this does not have the effect that Barbara wanted it to. Because now everybody's excited. They're like, oh my God, ghosts. They want to profit off of them. They're like, great, this will be a moneymaker. So it's like, damn. Now they definitely want to stay.
And up to this point, I even wrote a note. I kind of liked the dad up until this point because he wanted to keep the house the way it was and stuff. And then now all of a sudden, yeah, he just sees this as a money making scheme. So I
The,
kind of I kind of lost all my respect, especially now that after I found out that he's a sex offender.
yeah.
So
Well, so now they all want to see the ghosts. They won't come down. So they force Lydia to like take them up to the attic. They hide. They like hang out the window. They can't
which
leave the house.
which don't you think is kind of weird because they can't see them?
Right. But maybe it's like now because they like believe they'll be able to see them, maybe.
I don't know. I didn't think about that.
I'm
Okay.
unclear on I'm a little unclear on the rules because like why could Lydia, but it seemed like Lydia like it seemed like that's what she said, right? Mortals can't see them because they don't pay attention to the strange and
Strange and
unusual.
unusual.
I am strange and unusual. So maybe now that they like are paying attention, they could see them.
Could
In any
be.
case,
Yeah.
they
You
hide
make
by
a good point.
literally they're hanging like their hands are on like the windowsill. They're hanging out the window. But I guess it's like you can't die, so like who cares?
Right. Yeah.
But Otho takes the book, takes the handbook. Which again, it's like you all couldn't put that somewhere else.
Right.
But what?
Or that it's there for live people to see it. I would think it would have been
Right.
one of those things that only dead people can see that. But
At this point, Beetlejuice decides to get involved. As they're leaving, suddenly the banister doesn't look like the banister. It's a giant snake with like a Beetlejuice head. And he like almost kills Charles Dietz.
yeah.
He like knocks him down the stairs over the banister. Like everybody's freaking out. The Maitlands call him off. They, say his name 3 times again to send him away. He's like being gross. He's talking about Lydia. He's like, "Oh, that little girl's cute." And they're like, "Stay away from her." And then suddenly there's like a whorehouse, their term, not mine, in the model that he goes to. And Barbara says to Adam, like, "When did you build that?" And he's like, "I didn't build it."
Don't all the women look like Miss Argentina too? Is
Yes.
that what it was? What didn't they all have the same that they were the same
They were
person
like
or
blue, like
blue
Miss
and
Argentina.
yeah. So I was just I was sitting there because I thought is that Miss Argentina like times six or whatever? So
Yeah. So the Maitlands are summoned again to see Juno because they did the one thing she told them not to do. She says that she actually summoned the whorehouse to like distract him.
yeah, was her
Um,
idea.
and they're like, she's like, "You guys have to get rid of the Dietzes and you need to do more scary things. Like you played a fun song. Don't do that. You have to do something scary." So this is when I think this is like an iconic look, and this is also part of the reason probably why they got the Oscar for Best Makeup. So Alec Baldwin, um, he looks like the one of the guys from Spy versus Spy. Like he stretches his nose out into
Right.
this long pointy thing and shoves his hand so it looks like a sort of like the like mohawk of a chicken. Um, and then he takes his eyeballs out and puts them on his fingers.
Yeah.
Gina Davis flicks her eyeballs so they go down. She like pulls her mouth into what looks like an alligator mouth. And then her eyeballs like kind of come out, so they're looking out through her mouth. That's my best description. Look up a
Yeah,
picture.
look it up. Yeah, look up the YouTube video or a photo.
Yes.
It is a great look.
Yes. The best part too that I love, so Alec Baldwin's wearing glasses through this whole movie. And so he has like his eyeballs on his fingers and he's like holding up his glasses
Class.
to the fingers so that the eyeballs can look through the glasses still.
That's a
But
nice
so they
touch.
they need to their mission is get rid of the Dietzes, get the pictures back because now they have pictures of them because Lydia took pictures of them when they were ghosts, and get the handbook back because Otho took the handbook.
Right.
So Lydia is like, "Where are the Maitlands?" Because she cares about them too. She
Hmm.
goes to the attic, she's looking for them, and they're not there. But Beetlejuice is still there in the model, and he's trying to convince her to say his name because he can't like tell you his name. You have to just like know it. So he's like giving her clues. I always love this part too because it's like there's a beetle and then there's like orange juice, and she's like beetle, orange, bug, drink,
yeah.
bug, breakfast. And he's
Yeah.
like, "Oh my God, she must be terrible at charades and Pictionary." Um, but she's like, "No, no, I don't think I will." Barbara, they're going back, and Barbara's like, I don't want to get rid of Lydia though. Like the rest
Yeah.
of them can leave, but I'd like Lydia. And Adam's like, "Well, we kind of have to." Like, then eventually, by the time they get back to the house, they're like, "You know what? Let's just let them be. They can stay. It's okay. We'll figure it out. We'll just stay up in the attic, do our thing." But that's not really sustainable. Charles is trying to still build up all this tourist stuff, especially now that he knows about the ghosts. He is calling his friend Maxie, who is Robert Goulet, to come to explore these opportunities. So they have him come and they're going to do a seance using what Otho has read in the book to summon Barbara and Adam. And it works. They have they have their wedding clothes still. So it works, like they're summoned, but then they immediately start sort of like withering and getting old and like almost like turning into dust.
Yeah. They're like decaying, or it
Yeah.
looks like, yeah, they're just drying up.
Yeah. So now like Lydia doesn't want that to happen to them. So now she's desperate, which means she goes to Beetlejuice. He wants her to agree to marry him because then he can stay, like in the mortal world. And
And
she's like, okay, which like, girl, no, that's not a good idea. That's a contract. Don't do that. But this is he sort of rises up from in the model table in his classic, the black and white suit.
yeah,
This is like the look. I think this is the Beetlejuice look.
it is.
And
And
he
then
says, it's showtime. I wish I could do Michael Keaton's voice, but
that was pretty good. But it was like
he's like,
that
it's
gravelly.
showtime.
Yeah. Um,
I can't do the like froggy voice.
and at one point, he has a line in the movie and where he says, "Go ahead, make my millennium." Where
Yes.
harkens back to the Dirty Harry. Go ahead, make
Yes.
my day instead of
Yes.
make my millennium. I didn't remember that until I saw that, and I thought, oh, okay.
Mm,
So
yeah. So he sort of rises up from the table, like in front of the guests from the model table that they have set up. And this is when he's like the carnival thing. He has like on his head, it looks like the top of like a merry-go-round, and his arms unfold to like the mallets. And Maxie and his wife, he kind of sends them through like a test of strength, like through the roof.
which
He,
we never find out whatever happened to them.
yeah,
So
they just disappear. They're gone. Sorry, Robin
yeah,
Goulet. Bye. Otho is tormented mostly by just putting him in a bad outfit.
a leisure suit.
Yeah, he puts him in a leisure suit, and then Otho's like, "Ah," and runs away.
screams and runs away.
Just
Um,
the horror of being in a leisure suit. Um, and then he's like, "Okay, Lydia, time for you to marry me. I got them to leave your people alone."
oh,
He also has Delia's sculptures come to life. So the one that looked like a Christmas tree and the one that was like a ball and chain kind of thing, they come to life and grab Charles and Delia and like kind of hold them hostage. And then the wedding starts. So the I love the little alien man who's the
the
officiant.
I like when he turned and then he was all of a sudden in that really obnoxious tuxedo, and then Lydia's in this red wedding
Yes.
dress.
I think that's also an iconic look, that like bright red tulle wedding dress. She has the
Yeah.
same, like, still has the hair. The hair is the same, but she's
Oh my
got this
God.
giant red tulle wedding dress on.
Yes.
And Beetlejuice is in like what looks like a 70s, like reddish maroon suit with like he has like the ruffles and everything.
I can show you
Looks
a
like
picture
I
from
was
my
gonna
high
say looks like
school.
something you might have worn to prom.
My senior prom. I can, yeah.
Yes.
I
My
yes.
dad wore a tan one like that.
Mine was red. Had cranberry pants and a red and white stripe or check jacket. So
There you go. So
with the
you were almost
ruffles.
full Beetlejuice.
Oh, I was, and this was what 13 years before Beetlejuice.
You were ahead of the game.
I was, yeah.
So he's trying to marry Lydia. The Maitlands, Adam and Barbara, are trying to stop him, but he keeps kind of thwarting them. He like will banish them or like
We
he makes
he slaps a thing on Gina's mouth.
yeah. Well, I think he makes Adam small and like puts him in the model village
Oh
first,
yeah,
maybe.
yeah.
And then she's trying to say his name 3 times to get him away. And she says it once, puts his turns her mouth into a zipper. She opens the zipper, says it again, and then he puts like a steel like door essentially like screwed to her mouth so she can't open her mouth. Um Adam, tiny Adam in the model village gets in the truck and drives it into Beetlejuice's foot just to like distract him. And Barbara's manages to get to the Saturn moon world they can access and brings back the sandworm to eat Beetlejuice.
Yeah, and I wanted to know, because she's like riding it, and it's like,
Yeah.
okay, so and again, shades of Dune, it's like,
Yes.
so, but how did she corral the sandworm,
Yeah.
and then get it to do her bidding and then crash from that world into that world, into the other world. So, but
Right.
it was funny. I mean,
Yeah. And honestly, like the whole wedding scene is a lot of very funny like quips and one-liners from Beetlejuice. Like when the guy's like, "Oh, Beetlejuice, do you take this woman to your wife?" And he's like, "Oh God, I don't know if I'm ready. I'm so young." Like
Yeah, and
he like
it's
turns away
almost
like
like
he's
he
talking to
breaks the
himself.
third wall,
Yeah.
the fourth wall or whatever, and he's like, I don't know, big decision. Should I or shouldn't
Yeah.
I? Okay.
And then he like can't find the ring. So it's being delayed quite a bit. Meanwhile, Lydia's just like standing there. But yeah, the sandworm eats him and Beetlejuice is gone, right? Um Charles and Delia are excited to see the ghosts. They're like, "Oh
Yeah.
my God, they're real. We can see them." Um then we flash forward a little bit. Lydia is going to school at the local school. She's still gothing up she's in a uniform, but she's still gothing it up. She's got like a black like petticoat on under the uniform skirt. Still got the
Her hair's not
um
as
her hair's not as like it doesn't look as gelled.
yeah, it's more subdued.
Yeah. Like it's still like half up. She still has bangs, but they're not like the spiky
Yeah.
bangs and yeah, it's not all spiky. So but she comes home and it's weird because it's kind of like the Maitlands are acting like her parents
I
more
know.
so than her parents. Like she goes home and they're like, "Oh, how was school?"
Yeah.
And how'd you do on your science test? Oh, well, I didn't want to dissect the frog, so I got a C. But how did you do on your math test? Oh, I got an A. So they're like, "Okay, well, you can have a reward." And the reward is because we know that Barbara can like summon Harry Belafonte music and make people dance. They play Shake Sonora and Lydia like floats up in the air, and then all the ghost football players from the afterlife come join her
That's funny. Yeah, that's a
while Adam and Barbara dance around very poorly on
hmm
the ground. And it's funny because Charles and Delia are upstairs and they're like, "Oh, Lydia must have done well on her math test because they can hear the music." So it's like, do you have these ghosts parenting your child? And then
evidently.
Delia does a sculpture of like the snake with Beetlejuice's head and is like, "Oh, here, Charles, look," and he like freaks out.
It was
Um,
pretty good though. The sculpture. I mean, it was
it was
pretty spot
a
on.
very good likeness, yeah.
Yes, it was. Which
And then
that
we
was creepy, by the way. The
it
snake creature
was,
with Beetlejuice's head. That was
yeah,
yeah. This
yeah.
like I said, the special effects were good. So
Mhm. And then at the end, we cut to Beetlejuice. He is also in the afterlife office, and he's just being gross to everyone. First of all, he's like groping the woman with the who's in half. And then he realizes he's got a long wait ahead of him. They're currently serving number three, and he's like number 5,600,000, whatever. But he sees that this voodoo man next to him has number four. So he tries to distract him and take it. And then remember the guy with the shrunken head? Well, we found out who did it because he shrinks Beetlejuice's head. And it's funny because Beetlejuice is like objecting as his head is being shrunk. So it sounds like a little helium. It sounds like Michael Keaton ingested helium. So he's like, "Hey, what are you doing? Oh my God." Um, so yeah, that's funny. I will also say speaking of the ghost football players, the scene when they're with Juno in the afterlife and they keep calling her coach, and she's like, "I am not your coach." They're like, "Coach, I don't think we survived the bus crash." And she's like, "Oh wow, really? What made you think that?" It's so funny because she's trying to like talk to the Maitlands and they keep bothering. It's like this group of football players and this tiny old woman, and they keep being like, "Coach, what's going on?
That,
I feel really weird here, coach."
and she
But
was funny, and
yes.
throughout the movie, and the small but pivotal role she had, I would
Yeah,
say.
like even the part when she comes to their house and she's like warning them and they're like, "Well, what do we do?" And she just like lights a cigarette and disappears. But yeah, so that's the movie. I think, it's hard to describe the sight gags of it because I think a lot of it is visual. So
Hmm
if you have not seen it somehow, please check it out. It's on Max. It's going to be on TV every other day this month.
I
So
think it's on
very easy to track
Freeform
down.
tonight. Whatever
Yes, Freeform. That's what I meant. I said ABC Family, but they keep changing. Now it's
yeah, it's
Freeform.
Freeform. Yeah.
So yeah, the 31 Nights of Halloween are ongoing. So I think a lot of the movies that we'll talk about will be At least the ones I'm talking about. I know you have a different one for your next one, but
Mm-hmm.
I think the spooky season movies that we're talking about will be accessible probably. But yeah, I think this one is fun. Again, I think this is a movie that we're not getting like deep messages from, but it's just fun and silly. And it is interesting. I like the way that they portray the afterlife as just like kind of another like thing you have to do. And like you got to go wait in line in offices and you have to talk to a caseworker
I
and
know.
it's like going to the DMV.
Uh, well, I was good. I was just going to suggest that if that is indeed the case, then Lindsay and I have nothing to work about or worry about because we worked for the federal government for a number of years, so we know how to run the system. So
Exactly. We're bureaucracy. Got 'em.
that's right,
Got
baby.
it.
So
So also I would read the manual. So I'm a
well, as I was going to say, if this is indeed the case, so when the time comes, Lindsay will be running the afterlife. I
I
feel
hope
very
so.
confident in that. So
I would at least read the manual. I'm the person like when we get in my friends or family get a new game. Some people want to just start playing. I'm like, no, no, no.
you gotta.
We're gonna figure this out. Because this is the problem. But the people that want to start playing, they always run into an issue.
So
Well, they're
yeah.
like, well, what do we do when this happens?
Hmm.
Huh? Do you know where we could find the answer to that? In the instructions that came with the game.
No. What?
So I would have read the manual.
And you would know the answer to that. So
Exactly.
yeah.
So I would have read the manual and figured out how to scare some people away.
Yeah.
Um, maybe. I
Without
don't know that I can be that scary, but
using
I would
designer
probably end up like
shades.
Barbara. I would end up like Barbara, just
Mm,
making them dance. Actually, once I figured out I could do that, I would just do that every day.
exactly.
Maybe I would
Or
annoy them. That's what I would do. I would just drive them crazy, not scare
yeah.
them. But
Hmm.
because if someone made you sing against your will every day,
And dance. Right.
you might
Yeah.
be like, God damn it, I can't get anything done.
That or be so physically exhausted that you just, you wouldn't be able to do
Yeah,
anything.
we'd be like,
So
we have to go. I can't keep doing this. See, that's how I would drive them out that way
exactly. Yeah. So
through like attrition,
not through sheer terror, but through, yeah, just like being a pain in the ass.
inconvenience. Yeah,
There you go.
annoyance.
Yeah.
Love
Yeah.
it.
Death by
Love it.
annoyance. So
Yes, I think that's where I would thrive as a ghost.
so you said
I would be a poltergeist, basically. I feel like
oh,
poltergeists are the ones that cause mischief and stuff
right.
normally.
Okay.
Yeah, I would be like Peeves, the poltergeist from in Harry Potter for people who read the book because they didn't put him in the movies, but that
I
would
was
be
just
me.
going to
Just
say so. Yeah, I didn't read the book, so that's a new one
no.
on me.
Yeah, they did not put him in the movies, which
Oh,
is
that's a shame.
is
That's a
is
great
is
name,
boring.
Peeves.
Yeah.
Peeves
Peeves
the
the
Poltergeist.
poltergeist.
Um,
But yeah, that's I think that would be me as a ghost, I think. Just annoy people.
hmm
Just bug them.
um,
Move their stuff. Ooh, they would hate
oh,
that.
oh, I know. Yeah, rearrange stuff.
Mhm.
Especially somebody who had like a obsessive compulsive disorder. Who was like very a neat freak and stuff,
Yeah.
or just scatter things. That's what I'd like to do. Like just make things just fly around the room and then just land wherever they would. So.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So you and I talked about this beforehand, before we started recording those. So this movie was on your list as well,
Yes.
and
Yes. I
then
mean, I think, yeah,
so
I just
it
consider
obviously
it,
spoke to both of us.
yeah, I think it's just like around Halloween, like this is one of the movies that like I feel like I have to watch.
Hmm. I would say so. Yeah, because it's not like super scary. It's not.
Yeah.
It's
It
not.
just it gets you into like the spooky season.
Yeah,
But it's funny and it's like kind of silly and fun and it's cool to look at.
yeah. And come on, how many times do you see somebody dressed up as Beetlejuice at
Mm-hmm.
Halloween? Come on, that's an
Mm-hmm.
iconic costume. So.
Right. And I mean, obviously, like this became kind of like I don't know about a cult classic because I think it generally did well early on, except for
Mm,
Siskel and Ebert. But
yeah.
it became like a pretty beloved film enough that, you know, 30 something years later they made a sequel to it with most of the main cast returning.
I was going to say, and it was a critical and commercial success. It says it grossed $84 million on a $15 million budget. So, and
Mhm.
so yeah, it said it spawned an animated television series, which you talked about, video games,
Yes.
and a 2018 stage musical.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
then
I've seen
now
clips of that.
the movie, it came out in September. So
Yeah, yeah. And I don't know if we talked about the cartoon since we started recording. We might have talked about it before
we
then. I
you
can't
brought it
remember.
up. Yeah, as a matter of fact.
Yeah.
Yeah, you talked.
So that I think is how I actually discovered this movie because I don't think that I saw the movie first. I think I saw the
Oh,
animated
okay.
series first because they would play reruns. Because it
Mm-hmm.
came out initially in like 89, 90, 91 when I was born in 1990. So like obviously wasn't watching it then, but
Right.
when I was a kid, like I remember watching it. Like they would play reruns on like Fox or maybe even like Nickelodeon, but that the animated series sort of followed the adventures of just Lydia and Beetlejuice.
Beetlejuice, and from what I read a little bit too, yeah, Beetlejuice wasn't quite as they were like buddies at that
Yeah,
time
they were
instead
friends.
of
He wasn't gross, which makes sense because it was like for
yeah,
children.
he didn't want to marry her or whatever. He was just kind of like I
Yeah.
think helped her out with things and stuff. So
Yeah, and they would like go back and forth between like the Netherworld and the
yeah,
Netherworld and the Mortal World. And you see like the sandworms and stuff. So I think that like I always enjoyed that show. And then I think I enjoyed like watching Lydia in this movie once I eventually saw the movie. But I think I saw that
the
first, the
cartoon
cartoon.
show. So
Hmm.
and
That's what I have more memories of.
I don't know how the stage musical went. I don't know if any. I don't know if it was a success or not.
I
The
feel like it was because they were in
was
they did the how they always have like some Broadway shows in like the Macy's Thanksgiving. They were in the Macy's Parade one year,
yeah,
that ensemble, and
okay.
I think they performed at like the Tonys, so like they got nominated for stuff. I've heard a song or two. I think there's a song called like Say My Name, which Beetlejuice sings, but
Oh,
can
okay.
you imagine doing a Broadway show and having to talk? Because he was talking in the like, like,
Oh, I
the
know.
froggy voice. So like doing that and singing,
Oh
that
gosh.
has to be even harder.
I
How do you
wonder
like,
if
he must drink a lot of tea.
yeah, or Honey.
Hmm.
I wonder who played. Oh, Alex Brightman. It says is who
Yeah.
the uh, the original character. So on
Yeah.
Broadway.
Yeah. I've seen clips of it. It seems
Yeah,
entertaining and it seems like it was pretty like well attended, I guess.
and I think
Um,
the new movie has gotten pretty good reviews, hasn't it?
yeah, I've heard some mixed things
The
from people, but I
sequel.
think it's like generally done well, like box office wise, for sure.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, I think
So,
and kudos to Michael Keaton for reprising his role.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
36 years later.
yeah, exactly. Um,
Yeah, and I thought it was interesting too. We talked about this that like so in the original Beetlejuice, like Beetlejuice isn't in it that much until
no,
the end, really. And Michael Keaton wanted the same in Beetlejuice. He didn't want to have more screen time than he did in the first Beetlejuice because he was like, that would be too much. It's nice to have Beetlejuice sort of like be the accent and not like the main thrust of it, sort of.
yeah. I mean,
Even though he is the titular character.
he is, but yeah, you're right. But and he is the performance is over the top. I mean,
Hmm.
and with Michael Keaton, it's he's mugging, he's doing,
Yeah.
all the overacting and stuff, but he does pull it off. But you're right. I think there's just enough of it to keep you to make you either laugh at it or whatever while it's there, or to sit there and go, oh my god, and then but most of it is Gina Davis and Alec Baldwin's characters, which is
Hmm.
nice, and because you see that they're sweet and then are in love, and they're trying to reconcile with being dead, which evidently is not easy to navigate.
Yeah, yeah. And to the disappointment of Gene Siskel and Roger Ebert, that's
Yeah,
not unfortunately the whole movie is not just
yeah.
them fixing up the house.
So
That just it cracks me up every time I hear that because it's like, what did you think this was going to be about?
I because don't they put out pressers for movies like oh here's a synopsis of the movie
Right? Or there's like
before
a tagline. Let me
or
look up
something?
what was the tagline of this movie?
It's like dude,
But yeah, like the poster.
Well, that was my big thing was like, how do you see that, like plus they're in their wedding clothes, Gina's in her wedding dress and Adam's in his wedding tux, except like I said, his head's removed from his body. And Beetlejuice is sitting on top of the house in his classic white and black and white striped suit.
Yeah. So the tagline, again, what about this gives you couple fixing up a house? Say it once, say it twice, but we dare you to say it 3 times.
Oh,
Roger Ebert, what are you doing, man?
I know,
Uh,
really. I
it's
mean,
just that just cracks me up that's
yeah, that they were that either that dense or that they were that naive to think this is going to be, that. But yeah, I think it like I said, if you want to get Halloween started out on a light note or not so, like make you scream it in terror or whatever.
yeah.
So
If you want a bit of the spooky vibes, but not like scary,
yeah,
this is a good movie for you, I think. Like, yeah, I watched this when I was much younger and it was okay. I think when I was a kid, I was easily scared of everything, but but I had watched the cartoon, so I was primed for it. So I wonder if the cartoon's available anywhere.
I don't know.
That was always fun though.
Part of me still wants to see what his face looked like when he told him he was scary, and like all you
Oh
see is
yeah,
the
like the
back of his head and
snake,
that
and
stuff
you
just
see like the
shoot out from
snakes
his
kind of
face,
popping
and
out.
even they
Yeah.
go, ah, they, it's
Yeah, and
like,
he always had snakes when he was just like, "Oh, can you hold this?" He was like emptying out his
oh, I
boxes. He was like, "Oh, can
know.
you hold this?" He gave the dad just like a handful of snakes.
Well, it just like the makeup and stuff, like around his face, it was like green mold.
Yes, it was like some sort of like old like like an old building and sort of like the mold and
Yeah.
moss are kind of creeping. It looks like it's creeping from his hair, which is green, onto his face, and then he has just like the black around the eyes
Oh, I know. I
and
mean,
like the icky teeth
when
and
these
like
teeth are, yeah, just, I mean, like I said, the makeup job is great, and luckily it did win the Academy Award. So, I was just looking at the cast. It's got like, yeah, it's got Winona, it's got Catherine O'Hara, it's got Willem Dafoe. I wonder what he plays in the movie.
oh yeah, he's in the new one.
Yeah, that's what
Him
I
and like
mean.
Monica Bellucci, Justin Theroux is in it.
Yeah, Jenna Ortega, like you said. So,
Hmm.
and the music again by Danny Elfman. So, that'll be interesting. So I don't know, maybe have to go see. Well, so far it's done well. It cost $100 million to make, and
Hmm.
it's grossed $379 million so far.
There you go.
There you
Go
go.
on with your
So
bad
it
self, Tim.
tripled, almost quadrupled its money. So Tim knows what he's doing. He knows how to play to the audience. But I don't know. Maybe I would have released it in October, but I guess they're trying to get the most bang for their buck.
Yeah,
So
to like lead in.
lead into Halloween. So
Hmm.
with our, I think our audience can expect then for at least the rest of this month for us to continue the theme.
Yes, we're doing spooky season. I
Okay.
think my picks, I'm not a scary movie person, so mine are gonna be of this vibe. We get
Okay.
some ooky spooky, but not scary, because I don't
Okay.
I don't like scary. That's just me. I think maybe you'll go kind of scary.
I'm gonna go pretty scary on the next go around. So I'm just
That's
saying.
good.
So
It'll
yeah.
be a stretch. I'll sleep with my light on. It's all good.
So we'll. I think if in honor of the season that that we I think we owe it to our audience for a diverse pick. So yeah, pick something that's going to be maybe a little bit creepier and a little bit scarier. So, but
Mhm.
I'm looking forward to the season. So,
Yes,
uh,
I love Halloween. Also, if you know Jim and I, we take our Halloween seriously.
mm,
We if you look at the little picture icon that we use, it is a compilation of Halloween costumes we've done, many of which are movie inspired. So we always try to keep it coming, and we have something planned for this year too. So
exactly. So
we'll
yeah,
share
so
that once we take
our
our annual picture.
long-standing tradition now. So,
Yes. Yes.
which
So I
which I
think
enjoy immensely. So,
yeah, yeah. I think I always do a Halloween costume with Jim and I always do another one too. I think ours is not movie inspired this year, but I think the other one I'm gonna do is gonna be movie inspired. So
Okay, well, yours are always good. So I was going to say especially the ones that you do with your friends and so on. So, but and I always
I do
admire
my best. I take
the work
Halloween
that
seriously.
I know
I
you
take
do.
it seriously. We don't
So,
half-ass a costume. We got a whole ass
so,
the Halloween costume always.
and yeah, and I always, and Lindsay and I come up with the ideas together. But I'll be honest with our audience, it's mostly Lindsay who's the creative one and always comes out with the stuff. So
This year
I
was
just
your idea though. This was fully
well,
you.
well,
And the one before this that this relates to was also your idea.
well. So
So
just just trying to
we
give the people
we
what they want.
we've split it, but I think this will be a good one. I think
I
it'll
hope
be a
so.
good one.
Yeah, me too. So
I feel good about it.
yeah, same.
So we'll
So,
see.
okay.
Well, I think we've covered everything Beetlejuice. Like we said, I think it's primarily a movie you have to take in visually. So check it out. It's
Yep.
on Max. It'll be on Freeform 1,000 times over the next few weeks. So check that out. Um, please subscribe wherever you're listening to this podcast. You can leave a rating, leave comments or reviews, especially if they're nice. If they're not nice, go shout it into the void or shout it on a moon of Saturn surrounded by sandworms. How about that?
Even better.
You can follow us on Instagram at Some of Our Parts Pod. There you can see listings of all the other movies that we've talked about so far. We share some other things that come up as relevant. So uh, I shared a meme for Mean Girls Day yesterday since we've covered Mean Girls, and I'm sure we'll
Mm,
share our Halloween costumes this year on there as well. You can also find little clues. We put some little previews and clues of upcoming episodes, usually a day or two before. So check that out. And until next time, bye bye.
stay safe.